from Blake Shelton's explosive departure from The View didn't subside quickly. It only intensified as more details emerged from behind the scenes. The backstage footage, though never intended to be public, found its way onto social media through anonymous leaks. In the raw footage, you could hear Blake speaking with producers before he stormed off, his voice filled with frustration. "This isn't what I signed up for," he said, shaking his head. "I didn't come here to be ambushed." The producers tried to calm him down, but Blake's resolve was clear. He wasn't backing down. When the cameras returned to the live broadcast, the audience was left in stunned silence as he made his exit, throwing the microphone on the table. Social media erupted in real time, with fans and critics alike dissecting every word. Blake's fans, primarily from rural America, rallied behind him. They took to Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok, creating viral videos calling out Joy Behar for what they saw as an unfair attack. Blake didn't deserve that. One tweet read, "He was there to talk about his music, not be lectured by a New York elitist." Thousands of supporters echoed similar sentiments with hashtags like #StandWithBlake and #Behar, unhinged, dominating the trends. Celebrities joined the fray, too. Country star Tim McGraw tweeted, "Blake is a true representative of where we come from. Stand tall, brother." The backlash grew louder by the day, and Blake's management team had to hire extra security. After some online threats began to surface, on the other side of the debate, Joy Behar remained defiant. In the days following the altercation, she took to her own social media accounts to explain her actions, saying, "I didn't come for Blake's character. I came for the issues he represents. We're living in a world where rural America often gets a free pass to hold on to outdated ideologies." While some applauded her for standing her ground, others called her out for her lack of empathy. Talk show hosts like Trevor Noah and Stephen Colbert poked fun at the situation, turning the incident into comedic gold. Blake Shelton wasn't just kicked off The View, Noah quipped. He was served a side of reality with extra spice. Meanwhile, on conservative networks, Joy's comments were dissected as an example of liberal elitism, with commentators like Tucker Carlson calling her a prime example of what's wrong with the left. As public pressure mounted, ABC executives found themselves caught between two opposing forces. The ratings spike following Blake's exit had been undeniable. The View's episode went viral, and the show saw its biggest audience in months. But that success came at a price. Sponsors began to pull back, some citing concerns about the tone of the show and its impact on their brands. One major sponsor, a popular coffee chain, quietly removed their ads from The View, and others followed suit. Behind the scenes, ABC executives scrambled to contain the damage. An emergency board meeting was called, where key decision-makers discussed how to move forward. The network was keen to avoid a complete loss of advertising revenue, but didn't want to compromise the show's integrity. They understood the volatile nature of their brand. 1 minute, a beloved talk show. The next minute, a battleground for culture wars. Meanwhile, Blake Shelton capitalized on the media frenzy. The country singer, who had always prided himself on keeping his personal life private, began to embrace the media attention in a way he never had before. He posted an emotional video on Instagram, thanking his fans for their support. "I'm just a guy who loves music, loves my family, and loves where I come from," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, but I won't let anyone tell me where my roots are." That's not just for Mitts, for all of us. The video quickly went viral, with fans flooding his comment section with messages of gratitude and encouragement. "You're our voice, Blake," one comment read. "Thank you for standing up for what's right." At The View, the aftermath was equally intense. Joy Behar, who had been the central figure in the controversy, was noticeably subdued when the show returned from its brief hiatus. There were whispers that she had been asked to take a step back, at least publicly, from the ongoing media circus. Her usual sharp wit was missing as she addressed the audience, briefly acknowledging the tension from the previous week's episode. "We had a bit of a heated moment last week," she said, with a forced smile. "But that's the beauty of The View. We're not afraid to have tough conversations. We just need to remember to be respectful while we do it." The tone was a stark contrast to the fiery exchanges that had taken place earlier. Fans watching at home noticed the difference, and many took to social media to express their discontent with the shift in tone. "Looks like they put Joy on a leash," one viewer tweeted. Others agreed, saying that the authenticity of the show had been compromised. Asterisk, the fallout didn't end with Joy's subdued return to the airwaves. The network's attempts to patch up the rift between the hosts and Blake were met with mixed results. A planned segment, meant to be a peace offering to Blake, fell apart when his team refused to engage in a follow-up interview with the show. Blake's team made it clear that they were done with The View for the time being. "There's no point in continuing a conversation with people who don't respect you," one source close to Blake said. As the media continued to churn, the tension between Hollywood elites and country stars became more pronounced. Some analysts began to argue that this conflict wasn't just about The View or Blake. It was part of a larger cultural divide between urban progressives and rural conservatives. Asterisk, as the months passed, the public began to weigh in on who had won the clash. For some, Blake Shelton had emerged as a champion of rural America, fighting against an elitist media culture that failed to understand the heartland's values. Others argued that Joy Behar had done what needed to be done. She confronted a celebrity who embodied everything wrong with the glorification of a certain type of Americana. What couldn't be denied was that both sides had been irreparably changed by the encounter. Blake's music sales skyrocketed, and his fan base grew, but his public persona was forever tied to that moment on The View. Joy, too, faced a new reality. While she remained on The View, her position as a fierce, untouchable commentator had been shaken. Asterisk, but the most lasting effect of the incident might have been the ripple effect it had on the media landscape. The clash between Blake and Joy highlighted the power of live television and the ability for a single exchange to redefine careers and public perceptions. The event became a case study for media professionals, discussing how talk shows could no longer afford to be safe spaces for celebrities, and how political and cultural commentary was often blurring the lines of respectful dialogue. Television ratings surged and then dwindled in the aftermath, with many asking whether the medium's relevance in a streaming age could be sustained by the same level of controversy. Whatever the future of The View was, it was clear that its history had been forever altered by that single moment of fiery disagreement. Asterisk, as for Blake Shelton, he remained resolute. The public persona that had once been just a country singer now felt like a full-fledged cultural icon, a man who had, despite the odds, taken a stand. Blake's words continued to resonate. "Sometimes, you've got to walk away from the fight so you can walk back into the song." It wasn't just about country music anymore. It was about his values, his roots, and his refusal to back down in the face of personal and public attacks. Blake may have walked off The View, but in many ways, that walk led him into the hearts of millions. For better or worse, he had become a symbol, one whose every move would now be scrutinized, admired, or criticized. Just when the media storm seemed to be fading, another twist reignited the fire. A never-before-seen clip was leaked from an internal rehearsal session that took place moments before Blake went on air. In the video, a producer was heard briefing Joy Behar saying, "Lean into the politics. That'll get the numbers up." The implication was chilling. Was the clash with Blake orchestrated? News outlets pounced on the leak, fueling conspiracy theories that Blake had been set up as a ratings sacrifice. ABC immediately launched an internal investigation, but the damage had already been done. Fans began demanding apologies not only to Blake, but to viewers, arguing they'd been manipulated by the network. "So we're just pawns in a ratings game now." One viral post read, "Suddenly, what was once just a loud on-air spat became a deeper debate about ethics in media and the exploitation of celebrity conflict." Asterisk, Blake himself didn't comment on the leak immediately, but his silence only intensified speculation. Was he considering legal action? Was he waiting for the right moment to speak? A week later, he broke his silence again in a candid podcast interview. "I ain't saying they rigged it," he said, voice low and steady, "but it sure didn't feel like a fair fight." He spoke about feeling cornered, unheard, and used for drama. But instead of bitterness, his tone was one of clarity and purpose. "That day on The View reminded me why I stick to music and family," he said. "Because those are the only things real in this business. The episode went viral again, reigniting the furyon, drawing new sympathy even from those who didn't consider themselves country music fans. Asterisk, the media began treating the Blake-Joy confrontation as a pivotal moment in celebrity culture. Major outlets ran think pieces dissecting what it all meant. Vanity Fair dubbed it the day TV talk shows lost their innocence. Others were more blunt. Rolling Stone wrote, Blake versus Joy wasn't just about politics or culture, it was about the weaponization of personality for profit. Even rival talk show hosts chimed in. Ellen DeGeneres posted a cryptic tweet, "Being nice is underrated," while Drew Barrymore extended an open invitation to Blake for a redemption interview. The View, however, remained mostly silent. Joy continued with her role, but avoided any direct reference to the leak or the wider fallout. Whispers of internal disagreements among the co-hosts grew louder. Viewers noticed that the camaraderie felt forced, the debates less sharp. Something had changed. Asterisk, in the midst of all this, Blake's new single, ironically titled Walk It Off, hit #1 on country charts. The lyrics, inspired by the incident, subtly hinted at betrayal, media spin, and the power of silence. Lines like "they pushed me to speak, but I sang instead, and you can't twist truth when the world's already watchin'" struck a chord. Critics praised the song as raw and timely, and fans felt it was Blake's most honest work in years. He went on tour, and every concert became a celebration of resilience. At each show, Blake made it a point to thank his fans for having his back when it felt like the world was against him. The concerts turned emotional, with signs reading, "We walk with you," filling stadiums. Asterisk, meanwhile, Joy Behar faced her own reckoning. Protesters showed up outside the View's studios, some holding signs saying, "Media should inform, not perform." Rumors swirled that ABC was considering a temporary suspension for Joy, but ultimately decided against it. Still, insiders revealed she was asked to undergo media coaching and participate in a public roundtable about respectful dialogue. The Joy that returned to screens a few weeks later was quieter, more measured, but not broken. In a rare moment of vulnerability, she addressed the controversy directly, saying, "Maybe I crossed a line, maybe I didn't. But if we can't challenge each other with words, what do we have left?" It was a tense, almost poetic apology that left some satisfied and others unconvinced. Asterisk, then came the unthinkable. An anonymous ABC staffer released a scathing letter to the press, detailing how Blake's appearance had been scripted for chaos. The staffer claimed producers intentionally told Joy to provoke Blake on topics she knew were sensitive, including his stance on country values, gun ownership, and rural education. The revelation sent shockwaves through the industry. ABC was forced to issue a formal statement denying all claims and promising transparency. But the public's trust had already eroded. Overnight, Blake went from country singer to symbol of resistance against manipulated media. Talk show ratings dropped. Across the board, not just the Views, viewers seemed fatigued, suspicious. The Blake-Joy incident had opened their eyes. Asterisk, in a bold move, Blake announced he was launching his own online series, Straight Talk with Shelton, aimed at giving people real conversations without corporate filters. The first episode aired with no glitz, no crowd, just Blake in a barn, talking honestly about his journey, about truth, fame, and integrity. It was raw, stripped down, and deeply human. "I'm not here to convince you of anything," he said, "just to remind you that your voice matters even when they try to drown it out with applause." The show was a hit from the start, quickly amassing millions of subscribers. It was a full-circle moment. The man who had walked off live TV was now creating a space where voices couldn't be twisted. Asterisk, as for Joy Behar, time would tell if she'd weather the storm. Her legacy as a fearless talk show icon was now entangled with a moment many felt exposed to the darker side of television. She remained on The View, but her interactions were more cautious, her tone less fiery. The Blake moment followed her like a shadow. Memes, parodies, and video mashups immortalized the clash. It had become a cultural reference point comedians joked about, but also something professors dissected in media ethics classes. What began as a heated conversation had become a seismic shift in how audiences perceived authenticity on screen. Asterisk, Blake's final comment on the matter came in an interview almost 6 months later. Asked if he would ever return to The View, he laughed softly and said, "You don't go back to a house that tried to burn you down." But then he added, "Still, I thank them, because sometimes you need a storm to realize how strong your roots are." It was a line that went viral once again, quoted in headlines and printed on t-shirts. Blake Shelton hadn't just survived the storm, he had built something stronger because of it. The country star who walked off set had found his own spotlight, one that no network could dim.